How many people think the headline's important? It is vitally important. It's one of the most important things. Now, I could talk about this for a long time, but there's a guy much better qualified. Please meet Alan.
I've just come down from the Isle of Skye. I'm nowhere living in the muffle shy, and the lassies shout when I go by. Down fares you trousers, let the wind blow high, let the wind blow low. Through the streets in my kit-tail go. All the lassies say hello. Down fares you trousers.
Good afternoon, Dublin. In Edinburgh, we get a much bigger cheer than that. Good afternoon, Dublin. Okay. Early 1980, a call went out to a community with a warning, danger. Now, this was so dangerous, if the community didn't take notice, there was a good chance that they could lose their life. This is a true story, by the way. And at the base of this mountain, there was this old guy called Harry Truman. And he lived on his own. He was nearly 90. Lived on his own with his 16 cats. And the authorities went to Mr. Truman and they knocked on his door, which is a log cabin by the lake. And they said, Mr. Truman, you need to move right now. And he said, I have lived here all of my life. My children were born here. My children's children come here. And every ounce of my existence is built into the fabric of this cabin. I will not move. But the problem was, the danger didn't go away. The danger refused to go away because Harry Truman lived at the foot of Mount St. Helens. And every morning Harry would wake up, he would do his usual routine, he would open his windows of his log cabin and he would smell the fresh air coming in, just the chill and the scent, and he could hear the animals and the birds. Until one morning he went out and he thought, it smells a bit different. It started to smell of sulfur. You can actually start to smell the volcano. But there'd always been a smell coming from the volcano, but Harry knew this time was different. And the authorities came again and said, Harry, we are measuring this stuff, and if you do not leave this house, you will die. And Harry said, I'm not changing for anyone. And as time got closer and closer, Harry noticed in the morning there was no animals. Because animals instinctively know, it's built into them, it's built into their DNA, that when danger is approaching, they run. The rabbits, the deers, the bears, the birds, everything that lived there, they went. Did anybody tell them? Nobody told them anything. But they knew danger was on its way. So Harry was now faced with a smell. He was now faced with the fact that there was no animals. He was now faced with the fact that the trees around where he lived, these wonderful, glorious old men of the forest, had begun to die. So for one last time, the authorities went to Harry's cabin and they knocked on his door. They said, Harry, please, we will rehouse your 16 cats. We will take everything from this cabin and we will put it somewhere that you are comfortable with. Please leave the cabin. And Harry said, no way. And on May the 18th, 1980, 1/3 of Mount St. Helens collapsed in an explosion that was felt on the other side of the planet. And the impact of that volcanic eruption was felt everywhere. And Harry Truman, to this day, is 80 meters under the lava. He lost his life. Isn't that ridiculous? Isn't that a ridiculous way to lose your life? But the point is this. Why is it when we as human beings see danger, we ignore the signs? Why is it when we as human beings see things racing towards us and we know we can take action to get out of the way, we ignore the signs? Why is it as we as human beings may be having a pain in our chest for 2 months, for 3 months, for 4 months, and we still say, I think it's indigestion? Why do we continually ignore the signs? Isn't it crazy? Isn't it crazy? Of course it's crazy. And you know what? We are living in climatic times. Would you agree with that? You know, they said September the 11th, when that took place, they said that was the change of the world. Everything will be different. We are living in the biggest, the hugest, the most mountainous, gigantic, Herculean time ever. And the danger is racing towards all of you, and it's racing towards me. But are you taking heed of the warning signs? Now, of course, when I normally do a presentation, I'll have my slides and I'll go through my slides. But you know what I wanted to do today? I just thought to myself, you know what? I could go on there and do the normal presentation that I would normally do. But then, when I was flying over here this morning, I just thought to myself, if the pilot was in danger and he had to land the plane safely without it crashing, everything that we get taught at the beginning of the plane, put your mask on, put your thing on, and everything else, would go out the window. Everything would, because everybody panics and goes crazy. So dangerous times take a completely different type of thinking and mindset. They do. You cannot use the same thinking, the same mindset, the same life skills, the same tools this year that you used 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. You can't. And if you do, you are a modern-day Harry Truman. So what I did is I just scribbled down a few notes, and I thought what we'll do is we'll discuss some stuff. And I'm going to go through some stuff with you. I'll just put it on here. Just literally scribble down a few notes. Because you know what? It's critical. You know, and you lot have to be applauded, really, because we've been into town, and there's a rugby match on, right? Is there? Yes. Apparently France are going to Hammer Island. That's what everybody said. Pardon? Well, that's what they're saying on the street. Calm down, I was only kidding. Just calm down. We're supposed to be Celtic brothers and sisters, right? Forget it. So the point is, we have to start to think differently. Because it appears that we have a system that has been built and created a particular way, of course. And that system has shown us to do things a certain fixed way, which I personally don't and have never believed in. And what's happening with that system now? It's a total, absolute collapse. Now, I don't know about Ireland, but in England where I live, we're having all kinds of legendary businesses vanishing overnight. We're saying, crikey, Woolworths has gone. I mean, okay, crikey, whoever shopped in Woolworths, You know, I don't know anyone who ever shopped in Woolworths. We used to go in when we were kids and steal the pick and mix. That was it. And that was it. And you've got all these other businesses that are going under at a rapid rate. And the financial institutions are also collapsing. And you've got all these different things taking place on a global scale that affect us directly. But what you are actually seeing is danger signs. Because if you have been brought up a particular way, which I was, and I'm sure you were as well, the system that has been designed to bring us into the world and nurture us, apparently, is collapsing. So while we see these danger signs racing towards us, the question we have to ask ourselves is, what are we doing about it? Now, before I rant on too long, I suppose a question I need to ask you guys, it's only the second time I've spoken Ireland, is how many people know anything about me? Oh, well, that's encouraging. So I suppose I better give you a little bit of information so that you can have enough confidence in listening to what I'm saying to you. Because I could just be another one of these speakers paid to do a load of waffle on the platform and feed you some information. And yes, I will be making you an offer at the end of the speech. So don't go all shocked. Of course I will. You know why I'm going to be making you an offer? Because the offer that we do with our clients, we have a family. We have a family called Orange Beetle Family. We have 2 of our family helping us here today. They're not literally flesh and blood sisters, but we take our people in and we nurture them with kindness. We smother them with love. We give them all the tools. We give them the advice. We give our family every single thing they need, not for 3 months, not for 6 months, not for 12 months. Any of my guys can ring me. They can ring me, and we have fixed rules on this whenever they want, anytime. Some of the guys that we work with who are in our family, we had a guy called David Lee. Within 3 weeks, he had taken over 300,000, implementing a strategy that we showed him. Because we showed him to watch out for the warning signs and be aware of what's taking place and be aware of the changes he had to make to himself. And the same with all our other people. So that is what we do. And I will be making you an offer to join the family at the end of the presentation, which I'll tell you right now is just under €5,000. So that's out the way. But the question you may be asking is, who's this Alan Forrest Smith? Who's this guy who's come over to Ireland to teach us something new? Who is he? Well, a brief history of, I was born in Edinburgh. By the age of 20, my mother had 4 children, and we lived in real poverty. We really did. And if we didn't have money or food on that day, paid for that day, or brought into the house that day, we never ate. It was that simple. So where we lived at a place called Leith Docks, New Haven Harbour in Edinburgh. And in the morning, the weekends or when school was off, we had to go down to the harbour, and we had to use the safety pin with a piece of string and a bit of foil on, and me and my brother, we used to just sit there doing that and catch fish about that size and just fill the bucket. When the bucket was filled, we'd take them back to the tenement flat, and that's what we'd have for dinner that night, with some vegetables. We tried to, honestly, we used to just take them from the fields. That's how we used to do it. You know, and I was just a wee boy then, and I had another brother, because my youngest brother, he was born in England. Until eventually, of course, my mum and dad became so poor, they had to do something extremely drastic. Because my mother, she's a smart one, as women often are. I'm sorry, man, but it's true. My mother is a smart one. So she said to my dad, if we do not take some absolutely life-changing action, this family will disappear. Now that's tough. That's tough for a family who've lived that real working class life. My dad's only ambition was to have another pint, and my mum was looking after 4 wee bairns. And that was it. And we had to go down to the dock, and we never caught fish, we never ate. If we never managed to scab a crab or a lobster off the trawlers, we never ate. And that's how it was. And there was always people bringing around broth and stew and sharing in these tenement communities. So my mum said to my dad, she said, Jimmy, we have to do something right now. So she got an advert from the paper and applied for my dad to join the prison service in England. And that's what he did. So in 1970, my dad came over on his own. He worked in the prison service, and 12 months later, we followed through. And we lived on the estate, where I had my very first business when I was 10 years old. And the little story behind that was, at that particular time, who remembers a rally chopper? Right, rally chopper. Mine was purple with orange writing. So you thought, this is a really cool bike. Gears in the middle, felt like a real motorbike, but there's no engine, of course. So I thought, well, I wonder if I could make some money painting these bikes for my pals. I was only 10, and I knew for something like, I can't even remember, 5 pence or something at the time, I could get a can of spray paint. And then I could go around to all my mates, and I wrote some notes and put them through all the doors. And I said, I'm now spraying bikes. Of course, we never had phones then, did we? Well, I never. We had a party line that 6 houses used to share. So if you picked it up, you would hear Margaret next door speaking to her pals. So you could never put your phone number on, because it's only in the kind of later on in the 70s we all started to get telephones, of course. So, of course, I started painting bikes then. And I got 50 pence, which was a lot of money then. I got 50 pence. And I went out and bought myself a new racer bike, because I thought the chopper was a bit young. So I got myself a racer. I was the first laddie on the estate to have a racer. And that was my very first business. Another business I did after that was, because the prison officers used to want the trousers altering, my dad used to come and used to say to my mum, Margaret, alter these trousers for me, take them up a bit. Well, I thought, well, I can do that if I have a sewing machine. Or if we just do it by hand. So I said to my mum, I said, I'll take the trousers up and I'll get the money. So again, I got £1 off all the prison officers for taking up the trousers. And it went on like this until I was 16. I was 15 actually. I walked out of school. Didn't do any real formal education. I didn't take any final exams. I walked out of school and had enough. I hated school. I hated the rules. I hated the teachers. I hated the discipline. I hated everything you can think of about school. Every single day, I would either wag it, I would hide in the cloakroom, or I would just try and get away as quick as I could. But unfortunately, when you have no real education, what can you do for a job? But then again, at 16, who knows what they want to do for a job? I didn't. Did you? No. Did anybody here know what they wanted to do at 16? Anyone? One person. Two people. That's interesting, isn't it? And are you doing the job? You're still doing the job today? Of course not. Are you still doing the job? Yeah. But isn't that interesting? They all want to know what it is.
I did my first radio show at 13.
Wow, that's impressive. Well done.
I'll be 21 years in radio this summer.
21, wow.
And I'm 33.
And are you single? But isn't it interesting how people in the younger ages don't know what they want to do? But the reality is, could this system actually give us more skills to go out there and understand what we need to do? But that's another story we'll come back to in a second, because so I ended up getting a job just digging holes. Used to dig holes, put a tree in, fill it. Dig a hole, put a tree in, fill it. Dig a hole, did that for 3 or 4 years. So eventually I decided to become a hairdresser. Because at 20, I'd already had about 5 years' experience haircutting. Because of the punk rock thing that was going on in the 70s, one of us, right, Al, you do the haircuts, and I'll colour it all. And that's what we did. So eventually I fell into hairdressing, and I stayed there for 17 years. Well, stayed there for 20 years, actually. But stayed in my own 3 salons. I had 3 salons, which, one of them, which I'll tell you a little bit more of a story on later on. One of them absolutely smashed through the last recession in the 90s because we saw the dangers and we used critical thinking at the time. So maybe you might be wondering is, a question you may be asking is, well, who are you today? Because I have had to make some absolutely gigantic changes in my life. Absolutely unbelievable changes to do what I'm doing right now. What is it I do? When people ask me that, I'm always a little bit, well, what is it I do? People pay me 10, 20, 30,000 to write a sales piece for them. Just one piece. People ask me for advice how to market their business. People ask me how they can get new clients through their business. People ask me how do I start up a new business and take it into profit in the first month. Because that can be done. People ask me all kinds of questions related to business. More and more people are saying, Alan, how do we change the mindset of our people? How do we make them think different? How do you make people think different? Isn't it interesting how the brain even works? Because we think things should be done a certain way. So we do things a certain way. But look at the way the world is right now. What has job done for you? What has your employer done for you? What has the system rolled out for you? You know what I always find interesting? Why is it people like Mick Jagger, David Bowie, Keith Richards, Iggy Pop, and all these new adverts, they've all still got a full head of hair, they all still look great, and they've lived the most unconventional lives you can possibly imagine. Yet when you get on one of these small internal business flights, everybody's getting on like that. And all the guys have got like a big frown. We were talking about this morning. All the guys in England are all getting on like that. Oh, this is bloody ridiculous. And, you know, and it's all pumped up and it's coming up. And you feel, don't you feel when you see people like that, if you do that, they'll explode. What? What are you doing? Doesn't it feel that way? You just feel like you just brush into them and they're going to knock your block off. That is what expected for us in this system. Yet, you know what I find so exciting? So exciting. So exciting. You create your own life. Past 5 years, I've been around the planet I don't know how many times. Went around the planet 4 times last year. Crikey, it was unbelievable, some of the experiences we had last year. Do you want me to share one with you, or am I waffling on? Do you want me to share one with you, or am I waffling on? Do you want me to share one with you, or am I waffling on? I can't wait till France, Hammer Island. So, I found something interesting. I really realized it last year. Some of you may be familiar with this concept, but you know, I find it fascinating how people think, because you cannot write the words unless you understand how the brain thinks. It's not possible, because you have to write what they are thinking. If you don't write, you might write a piece. You might write a wonderful piece, and you think, it's amazing. It's absolutely a wonderful piece of work. It's going to do everything. Yet, if you give it to the wrong target audience, it won't do anything. It'll do nothing. So you have to write according to the mindset. And one of the things I found out last year, well, I didn't find it last year, but I never took a lot of notice of it before, to be honest, was something called the law of... How interesting. How interesting. Because here's what I'm finding. I found this in Malaysia, in Singapore, in the USA, in Australia, in New Zealand, in Scotland, in Ireland, in Wales. I found it everywhere, quite honestly. And people come up to me after a talk and they say, okay, Alan, this year I want to do 5 million. 5 million this year. And I'm great. Oh yeah, I really do. I'm going to do 5 million. I'm saying, wonderful. So what's your strategy? And they say to me, well, I've left that to the universe. And I'm saying, okay. And how does that work? And they say, nobody understands that. You just give it to the universe. And I'm thinking, because for those who don't know me, I am actually very, very sensitive. And I can get upset very, very easily. And I go away thinking about this stuff for days and days and days. And I process it, and I go to my computer and I write articles about it, and I think, why are all these people being told about this law of attraction? You think of something great. You think of a 7 Series BMW. You think about it every day of the week for the next 6 months. It's a BMW on the drive. Where's it come from? That fascinates me. That fascinates me. Because when Jerry and Esther Hicks wrote the original law of attraction, when Moses wrote the 10 Commandments, the one commandment that is continually quoted is lovely a nation of pagans. Thou shalt not kill. But that's only one of 10. And actually the 10 are only 10 of 300 commandments. So there's 300 commandments. And the law of attraction is one of 3 commandments. And Jerry and Esther Hicks were in conversation with Abraham. Abraham says, there are 3 commandments, but you cannot take one without the others. You cannot run one without the others. Commandment 2, the law of deliberate creation. Commandment 3, the law of allowing. Yeah, I find it fascinating that people are being told all over the world that if you practice the law of attraction 1 out of 3, that 7 Series BMW will be on your drive. And if you believe that, you have been lied to. You've been lied to. So if you do believe that stuff, and you're interested in that stuff, spend some time researching it. Find out what Jerry and Esther Hicks really said. The secret, one piece of a big jigsaw. And I actually find that as a speaker, as a trainer, as somebody who has not only changed people's lives, someone who has saved lives. I'm not boasting. I was in New Zealand. A lady came over to Catherine. I said, Catherine, I want to speak to Al. And so this lady came over and she was in floods of tears. And she said, I want to thank you for saving this little girl's life. I said, crikey, what do you mean save somebody's life? What happened? She said, well, when you were on stage in Australia, you gave a presentation about charity and how to raise funds for a rainforest. You did this presentation. I said, yeah. And we raised about 70,000 on stage over 3 days. And we just gave this charity this money. This Pachamama charity we gave it to. And this lady said, well, I went away and I copied exactly what you did. And that gave me enough money within a couple of days to bring this girl over. And I can't quite remember, actually. I'm not sure if it was a heart operation or whatever. But they flew this young girl into Australia and saved her life. Isn't that a nice story when you hear all these things? Yet, you know, I go to other countries and I see people. Now, here's what's interesting. I've been to quite a few countries, quite a few times. Same country, same places. And quite often you see similar faces. Okay, I'll be honest, sometimes you see the same faces in the audience. You just do. And I can see some people 3 years down the road, and they will say to me, well, I'm still practicing the law of attraction, but my BMW hasn't arrived. because they do not practice the act of deliberate creation. You have to, I've got this concept, I've got this idea. You have to take some action, for goodness sake. Of course you do. Isn't that just sense? Is that not just sensible? So you have to take some action to follow it through. And then you have to allow. I said to my lady that today, I said, I'm not doing it. She said, have you got your PowerPoint? I said, I'm not doing one. I said, you're not doing a PowerPoint? Why not? I said, because I don't think it's good enough right now in these times we live in. I don't want to take you guys through a load of slides making me look brilliant, making you lot feel bad. What I want to do is I want to share some information that I've gathered the past few years and give it to you. And one of those gold nuggets I have definitely found is about these laws. You know, it's a bit like in Star Wars when Obi-Wan Kenobi is training Anakin. And Anakin's got his lightsaber out. And he can't quite hit the training ball. And he says, Master, he said, I'm trying so hard. He said, he's doing all this stuff. I'm trying so hard to hit the ball. And Obi-Wan Kenobi says to him, young Anakin, you have to feel the Force. And that's what you have to do. You have to allow it to take place. So if you're hoping it's going to take place, and it probably never will, and you're going to really try, but you'll probably never make it, I'm going to really try and earn 100 grand. I'm going to try and earn 100 grand. I'll never do it. But I'm going to try. Because you don't allow. You don't allow it to take place in your life. You get this little thing here, don't you? Just this little thing in here that goes like that. Have you felt that sometimes? Have you felt that? It's like, oh, crikey. It's just inside. If you could just open it up with a zip, just maybe massage it and soften it off or whatever, and you'd feel okay. That's because you're not allowing your natural self, your natural experience. You're not allowing your natural humanity, which is divinely given, if that's what you believe, or is universally fed, if that's what you believe. You are not allowing that to come through naturally. It's so interesting, some of the things people are saying these days. You know, we go around the world and we see all this stuff, and I'm going to tell you the story in a minute. I told you I was going to tell you. I don't even know if I'm sticking to my notes now.